The conflict was no longer external, no longer the town's suspicion, but internal, deeply emotional. Martha knew she loved Caleb, not with the infatuation of a first meeting, but with the profound, settling recognition of a soul long awaited. She loved the ghost of the boy he was, the frozen traveler he had become, and the gentle, lost man sitting beside her. But Caleb was not quite of this time. He was a relic, a man whose memories stretched back a century and a half, grappling with the invention of the telephone and the combustion engine. He was trying to catch up, but the modern world was a cacophony that left him reeling. The simple truth was that the bell had woken him, but it hadn't prepared him for everything that came after. He still carried the heavy, solemn weight of his original vow, and the question loomed, was he bound to the tower and to the name Martha? Or was he truly free to choose his own life in this new century? The quiet was no longer velvet. It was a tight, painful drumbeat of uncertainty. The town's scrutiny grew hostile. Mr. Everett, feeding on the strangeness of Caleb's story, claimed Caleb was a curse, a frozen spirit brought back to haunt Willow Creek. He organized a small, fearful delegation to visit Martha, demanding the stranger leave the tower. "He's a bad omen, Martha. He's not natural." Everett spat, pounding on the iron door. Martha faced them down bravely, standing in the doorway, blocking their view of Caleb. "He is a good man lost and now found," she stated firmly. "He is only seeking peace." But the fear in their eyes was palpable. They were scared of the mystery, of the sheer impossibility of his existence. This external conflict forced Martha and Caleb closer. They were two against the world, two souls bound by bronze, stone, and time. Caleb, hearing the commotion, pulled Martha back inside, his grip surprisingly strong. "They can't understand the long road, Martha. They only see the now." He looked at her, his love for her now evident in his gaze. "But I see both. I see the world I left, and I see you, my purpose, still standing here." Caleb began to share the old stories of the valley, the names of the original settlers, the location of forgotten springs, the path of the river before a great flood diverted it. He had a deep, organic knowledge of the land, a connection that no history book could replicate. He was an archive, a living memory. Martha, in turn, taught him the new world, how to use a kerosene lamp without burning down the tower, the strange new music that came from the battery-powered radio, the simple mechanics of her bicycle. Their days became a beautiful, impossible classroom, a bridge spanning 150 years. They found a rhythm, a synergy that felt both destined and hard-earned. They would sit by the fire, Caleb talking about the slow, deliberate pace of the 19th century, and Martha describing the hurried, connected nature of the 21st. The quiet was a deep, velvet thing when they were together, a perfect space carved out of time, shared only between two people, the bell ringer and the man who had frozen himself for love. One afternoon, Martha showed Caleb the cemetery plot where her Aunt Lily was buried, and, by coincidence, right next to it, the long-abandoned, simple stone marker of the original Martha. Caleb stood before it, his hat clutched in his hands, his head bowed. "She waited," he whispered. "She waited her whole life." The bell kept ringing, but I was too cold to hear. He looked at the inscription, "M. Always awaits." He looked at Martha, the present-day Martha, standing in the cold sunlight. The vow wasn't just to wait for her, Martha. It was to live a life with her when she returned. The heartbreaking realization of the original Martha's loneliness was a heavy thing for them both. It was a conflict not of action, but of grief for a love that had missed its time. It was then that Caleb truly understood that he had been given a second chance, not with the first Martha, but with the continuation of her soul's journey. The purpose was not to fulfill a literal promise to a specific person, but to finally complete the emotional arc of that promise with the one who bore the name and the heart that could ring the bell. The resolution had to be final. Caleb could not stay in the tower forever, a prisoner of his past, nor could Martha allow him to be driven out by the town's fear. He had to choose, live as a man out of time or finally be a man of this time with her. He brought the leather journal down from the tower room, placing it on the table between them, along with his worn, strange boots. "I have walked enough, Martha," he said, taking her hands, which were warm and alive. "The road is over. The search is finished. I found the bell and the bell found me. And now, I want to be found by the sun, by the fields, by the life that has been waiting." But there was one last piece of the old vow to address. He picked up his old, tattered cloak, the one covered in strange, broken circle stitches. "This," he explained, "is what kept me cold. It was woven with the curse of my endless wait." Caleb decided that the cloak, the vessel of his long stasis, must be destroyed. They took it outside to the stone clearing near the tower. The air was still cold, but the sun was shining bright, a hopeful sign in the late winter afternoon. Caleb struck a match, and the ancient, dry cloth, thick with the old magic and the essence of the forgotten vow, caught fire immediately, burning with a thick, strangely colored smoke that smelled of snow and old iron. As the cloak burned, the thick, heavy knot of sorrow that had always seemed lodged in Caleb's chest seemed to loosen. Martha watched, holding his hand tightly, as the last physical vestige of his centuries-long wait turned to ash. When the fire died down, there was a tiny, high-pitched ping sound. They looked down and saw, lying in the gray ashes, not a locket, but a small, simple silver ring, clean, bright, and untouched by the fire. It had been within the fabric all along, the true, hidden core of the vow.
Hearts awake in the chill below.
They returned to the tower, the small silver ring nestled safely in Martha's palm. The townspeople, watching from a distance, saw the fire and the strange smoke, and though they still didn't understand, the fear seemed to lessen. The fear of what is gone is always less than the fear of what is here. The next day, Caleb and Martha stood side by side in the firelit room. The bell tower, once Martha's prison of solitude, now felt like their shared sanctuary. Caleb took the silver ring. "I have no money, no possessions, no history that makes sense in this time," he told her, his gray eyes full of love. "But I have this. It has waited 150 years. Will you finish the vow with me, Martha? Will you be the one I ring the bell for the rest of our days, this time in the sun?" Martha didn't need to think. She slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit. "I will." My purpose was never just the ringing. It was the waiting and the finding. The midnight bell rings for what is lost and what is found. Now they were found together. They decided to leave Willow Creek, but first they had to face the town one last time. They stood on the steps of the tower, and Caleb, in his ancient-looking clothes, spoke to the gathered people. He didn't speak of time travel or lost centuries. He spoke of love, patience, and the importance of a promise kept. He told them the story of the original Martha, and how the bell had always been meant as a sign of hope. "The bell saved me, friends," he concluded simply, "and now, I am free to live the life it called me to." He announced that Martha's young cousin, Sarah, a quiet girl who loved history, would take over the duty of bell ringer. The town, tired of the drama and seeing the clear, honest love between Martha and Caleb, murmured their approval. Martha looked at Caleb, and for the first time, she saw a future that didn't involve winding stairs and stone walls. The quiet was still there, but now it was the deep, satisfied quiet that follows the end of a long, good story. On the next Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after Caleb had been revived, Martha and Caleb were miles away, starting a small, simple life together in a town that didn't know their strange history. But as the clock neared midnight, they stopped what they were doing and listened. They imagined Sarah, Martha's cousin, standing in the belfry of the old stone tower in Willow Creek. And then, faint, carried on the clear, cold winter air, they heard it, the deep, solemn, beautiful sound of respite. The midnight bell rang, 12 times, for the lost and the found, for the vow that had finally